As students, we constantly have to write tests and exams. The interesting thing is these exams and tests don't define us, but they are the best way to test our knowledge. And today I'll be talking about how we can actually prepare effectively for exams and tests in a short time. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Samuel. I'm a second year medical student currently studying in Russia. And on this channel, I make videos about medicine, productivity, and student life in general. So if you love to see more contents on these topics, you should probably consider subscribing to this channel and turn on the bell notifications so that you get notified as soon as I drop a video on this channel every single week. Just like I said before, today we're going to be looking at how to study effectively for exams, or how to prepare effectively for exams and tests. And I just finished a 3-video series where I talked in general about how to study effectively, tips to study effectively. Then we looked at how to actually understand content effectively at first time. We looked at how to remember what we've studied after a particular period of time. And finally, we talked about how to focus when we're studying, or how to focus for long hours. If you've not seen any of the videos, I'll leave a link to the videos in the description box, or I'll leave it up there. Today, we're going to be going deeper into how we can actually study or prepare effectively for tests and exams. And the way this video is going to be structured, I'll leave it there and also leave a timestamp in the description box and in the pinned comment. So if you want to skip to any part of this video that is most important to you, feel free to skip to any part. But it will be very nice of you to actually watch the full video, because every single tip here is very important. So moving to what we have for today, the first point I would love to talk about is giving ourselves maximum time of study before the exam or test. And this is probably one of our biggest problems when it comes to being unprepared before exams, because we love to procrastinate studying for a particular test or exam till it's almost time for the exam, or till it's almost the exam period, and we start trying to study for long hours every day, or we start having all night. That obviously will affect us negatively on the exam day. I myself have tried to do this. While I was in Nigeria, there was a time I had an exam coming up and I decided not to study until the night before the exam, and I tried to do all night and study all night and finish everything that night before the exam. But well, fortunately I eventually failed woefully. But as effective students that we are, what we want to be doing is that we want to be giving ourselves maximum time of study before the exam date or before the test. Let's say I need, or I require 16 hours of course studying to particularly prepare myself for a physiology exam. I could either split these 16 hours of course study into 3 or more days or a week or so, or crank everything up or force every of these 16 hours into a particular day before the exam. And one of the benefits of giving ourselves maximum time is that it allows flexibility and gives room for you to be able to try other materials, for you to be able to try other techniques, and for you to be able to practice questions and all of that, just to be efficient. So it's very important for us as effective students to prepare effectively for exams, to give ourselves maximum time of study before tests or exams. Now, the next tip or next point I would love to talk about is creating an effective, or creating a study plan. And of course, if you don't have a maximum time from the first point, you won't be able to create a study plan. So it's important for us to first give ourselves maximum time, and then eventually we create a study plan or effective plan for us to prepare for this exam. In creating a study time, I'd love to talk about retrospective timetable that I talked about well in the second episode of the series. Of course, the link to the video is down in the description box. Basically, what retrospective timetable is all about is that we look into the past rather than looking into the future. So when we create a timetable, in the first column we put every single subject or every single topic we have to cover before the exam date, and next column, after this first column, we put the first day we actually studied this material. In the subsequent columns, we're going to be putting the date when we went back to review what we read before, and in these subsequent ones, we're going to have to be putting or rating ourselves based on colors or stars. The importance of this retrospective timetable is that when we get close to the exam date or test days, and basically just check our retrospective timetable and see what part of this subject or what part of this course don't I know, or am I not good with. So we know by checking the colors or the stars, and this helps us to know what to focus on just before the exam or before the test. So the second tip is that after we've given ourselves maximum time to actually study, we create an effective study plan. So quickly, the third tip I want to talk about today is knowing your exam, your test, or your examiner. And I actually mean this because I'm sure that any exam or test we're writing, we're not the first set of people that are writing this test. So there are people or seniors before us that have passed through this process that we can actually learn from. All exams are different from each other, because even here in Russia, medical school, we are being split into groups, and each group have their own teacher for a particular course. And even though it's the same course, but because we have different teachers, we literally have different ways to prepare for each teacher. And also, looking at the two big medical licensing exams, PLAB and USMLE, when I and my friends were actually discussing or thinking of how we're going to write it, we noticed that the study time, the study techniques, or the study materials for these two exams, which are both medical licensing exams, are actually different in a very large way. So preparing for each exam, it's important for us as effective students to actually prepare according to each exam or examiner. It's important for us to ask questions from our seniors that have written the exams before, or ask questions from our teachers or examiner if possible. Now, the next point that I'd love to talk about is actually the most important to me, or the biggest of the points, and this is to study the testable materials first, or the core materials first. And you see, as effective students or serious students like we are, we want to be the best student in our field. I want to be the best medical doctor I can actually be, and you might want to be the best lawyer or best engineer, and this sometimes might actually force us to want to know every single thing we can know. I might just want to know every single thing about the body that I can know. When it comes to exams and tests, we need to switch our mindsets from these long-term goals of being the best medical doctor or whatever that we want to be, to short-term goals of passing this exam. And when we switch from this long-term to short-term goals, we need to now think of, what do I really need to know for this exam? And the way I would love to picture this to you is that, let's imagine there's a circle, and this circle is actually the testable material, or the real core material that we're going to be tested upon. And this whole box is actually what we really need to know for the whole course or for the whole field of study. Take two students, for example. Student A might decide to study from the top and decide to want to know every single thing, and probably, if he didn't give himself enough time, or of course may not have enough time to finish everything, and by the time the exam comes, he has probably reached just half of the box, and as a result of that, probably just reached half of the core or the testable material that he's meant to know. Or we can look at student B that we want to be like, who starts from the core material and start studying it out and start shading it out and shading it out. Even if it can't finish everything before the exam comes, we'll see that if they give them the same period of time, this student B would have been able to cover every single thing is going to be tested upon before the exam day. So now, after realizing that we really need to study the testable materials or the core materials first, it's important for us to also know how we are going to be studying. And the best way to actually study this testable material is using active recall. I already talked about this active recall, and I'm always going to continue talking about active recall. To me, it's actually the best way to study. Now, in short, what is actually active recall? Let's say we have a common phrase for all medical students that arteries don't have valves, but veins have valves. And let's take 3 students to compare them when they came across this particular phrase. The first student might just look at this phrase, arteries don't have valves, veins have valves, and probably just grab a book and write it down and then move on. Or we take a look at the second student who, when he came across this phrase, this same phrase, he looks into the sky, repeats the same phrase, and then goes on with what he was studying. Take a look at this third student that we actually want to be like, who comes across this statement or this phrase also and says, okay, arteries don't have valves, veins have valves, and he tries to digest the information, stops and tries to use active recall. Now asks himself, why don't arteries have valves and why do veins have valves? And he looks at himself and asks the question, okay, what is actually the usefulness of valves? And valves are actually used just to prevent the backward flow of blood in a particular vessel. The arteries, the pressure of the blood is always high because they're taking blood from the heart. And in the veins, they're taking blood from all the body cells or all the body tissues, and the pressure is very low. So probably the blood has a higher tendency in the veins to flow back, and as a result, they need valves to actually prevent them from flowing back. Now, every single thing I've talked about is just for us to prepare before the exam. Now, when the exam is around the corner, there are a lot of things that we need to put in place. One is reviewing what we've actually studied, and I talked about this in retrospective timetable. I also talked about this in the second episode of tips to study effectively, where we talked about the problem of us forgetting what we studied after a particular period of time. And the way to actually conquer this problem of forgetting what we studied is to go back and restudy what we've studied. And the way to actually restudy this is we use retrospective timetable, just the way I talked about. about. Use retrospective timetable to know where to focus on. You don't have enough time to get a retrospective timetable in a short time. The way I love to review what I've studied is that I check a particular course or a subject that I'm going to have a test upon, and then I say, let's say I'm writing this test now, which part of this course is going to pay me the most, or which part am I going to fail the most? And if you're able to tell yourself or answer that question of what you're going to fail the most, then you already know what to focus on. So if you know what you're going to fail the most, then you should probably just pay more attention into that. Spin it, guys. If you've loved this video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It helps to suggest this video to other people that might benefit from it. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because there's a lot for you to benefit from this channel. And of course, I really hope these tips will help you and help you prepare effectively for your exam. Be the best students that you can be at any exam or test you write. Either way, tell me what you guys think about these tips in the comment section below. If you have any other tips or what I didn't talk about, you can also talk about it in the comment section below. That's pretty much it, and catch you guys very soon in the next video. Peace.